Good morning, everybody, and welcome into Talking College Football. I am your host, Phillip Jordan, the in-studio host and producer for Nothing Was Football on 96.9 The Legend and writer for Last Words on college football, writing about the Auburn Tigers. Welcome into this morning's show. We'll probably have some screw-ups this morning, bright and early this morning here on the podcast. It's going to be a fun one. I will be joined by Josh Boutwell from the Troy Messenger. We'll be previewing the Troy Trojans. We'll be talking Sunbelt, and we'll also be talking about college football as a whole. We'll get Josh's state of college football, see all of his thoughts on where college football is at right now. So that'll be on the podcast as well. The coaches poll's out. The first coaches poll is out of the season. We'll be discussing that, going over that, and a couple other news items. But before I bring Josh on to the show, I'll let you guys know you can find me in the podcast. You can find me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast, you can find Talking College Football. And also, like I said, if you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And also, you can also find us on YouTube. Just go to the Phillip Jordan YouTube channel. And please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications, and leave a comment on the video. I will read that on a future edition as well. We got another podcast popping up on there as well. The Wiregrass High School Football Report. Of course, this one. You also have other podcasts coming along the line. You've seen the LSU Breakdown podcast pop up on there. Maybe some other shows as well. And you can always email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Now, let's talk Troy football. Let's talk Sunbelt with Josh Boutwell from the Troy Messenger. Joining me on the show today is Josh Boutwell, Troy Messenger sports editor, and covers the Troy Trojans on the beat. And Josh, I appreciate you coming on. We're getting close to the season. We're going to try and jump into the Sunbelt today.
It's my pleasure. Happy to be here. I'm talking.
Oh, yeah, I know. You moved from the Southeast Sun to the Troy Messenger. Had you a lot on the high school football pod, so I said I got to get Josh on one of these shows. Let's talk some Troy football. And how's that been? How's that transition been for you?
Oh man, head spinning, and it'd probably be the best way to describe it. I'm getting there. It's a new place. I've been covering pretty much Coffee County and that area. Oh man. 7, 8 years, 9 years, something like that. So it's just learning everybody and kind of getting into so many things. It's taken me a while, but I think I'm getting there.
Yeah, of course, you were used to covering Troy, though, whenever you were at the Southeast. I know you did that, cover their games and stuff like that. But, and I was reading some of your stuff about, obviously, that, fall camp has started for the Troy Trojans down here in the South. We're always excited, what's Troy going to do? New era there with John Summerall. But going into fall camp, what's kind of been the things you've been looking at?
Well, I think probably everyone, all eyes are on the quarterback situation. There's been a lot of other things. The offensive line's been something I've been looking at. The wide receivers, I think with Summerall, one of the things that he said earlier in the fall camp or in the summer, he said that the quarterback room, the receiver room, and the offensive line room all look pretty much completely different from the spring. And I think that's really stood out so far with fall camp starting. I think the defense, everyone we knew what Troy was going to put out there with the defense, and star-studded as it is. Probably, I would say you could make an argument that it's the best group of 5 defense out there, and you could put it up against a lot of Power 5s.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get into that defense. I do want to start with the offense, and that's just been a part of Troy over the 3 years under Chip Lindsey that just didn't work. I mean, obviously it took a dip after Neil Brown left to go to West Virginia. What you saw from Chip Lindsey and then going into the new regime there at Troy, what were the issues?
I would say first off, the difference is night and day. That's just 100%. I think one of the biggest issues is that it was kind of at times trying to put a square peg into a round hole where you had this huge offensive line, veteran offensive line, and a massive talented group of running backs, but trying to force that spread that an air raid type of offense Chip Lindsey had always run, and it seems that Sumrall and Joe Craddock are trying to build this offense around the talent they have and recruiting for that talent. And they have this veteran experienced offensive line. They have these really big receivers, and they have this great running. They're trying to tailor the offense around that and kind of build to their strengths. That's to me, by far the biggest difference.
And talking about a quarterback position, and that's the one, everybody mentioned with Troy going in. I feel bad for Gunnar Watson. It's like, okay, I had to deal with this last year with Taylor Powell, and I'm going to have to deal with this once again. But reading your articles, reading stuff coming out of Troy practice, seemed like, he's added. It's honestly the competition has make him bring more out of his game.
Yeah, he absolutely seems like he's embracing it. And if you go out there and watch him, to me, he looks like he's definitely improved himself. Not just when you look at him and you look at kind of the muscle and the weight he's put on, he's improved himself there. But he seems very confident. He seems to already have a great grasp on the offense. He looks very accurate in practice. I think people kind of saw Peter Costelli, his accolades, and how highly rated he was, and just kind of assumed, okay, he's going to come in and he's going to be anointed number one quarterback, but that's absolutely not been the case. And I think Gunnar is definitely showing that he is a 2-year, 3-year starter.
Yeah, obviously 16 starts under his belt, 23 games overall, and he's been a steady quarterback for Troy. I mean, when you look at Gunnar Watson, I don't really think of him once. Wow, he was just horrible there. He's not really had those kind of games. He's a steady-handed quarterback.
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely had his ups and downs over the last couple of years, and I think probably some people kind of wanted to hit the panic button in the spring with the spring game, because that definitely was a low for him. But he's definitely had some really great games. He's been a solid starter, like you said. He's not super turnover prone. I think him getting that next level of being not just a solid starter, but being a big time playmaker and leader for this offense will be him kind of grabbing that. But again, Peter Costelli, I think one of the things when you look at him, not only does he have a big arm, he's NFL prototypical quarterback size. But, man, this guy can run. His speed is pretty unreal for a quarterback.
Yeah, didn't Coach Sumrall, I think you quoted in one of your articles saying that he talked about he has wide receiver speed.
Yes, they said they clocked him at 21 miles per hour on their speed machine, and which is NFL receiver speed. And it's not hard to tell when you see him out there. You don't expect a quarterback that size to have that kind of speed. And I think, personally, and this is nothing that's been told to me, obviously they're not going to reveal this kind of thing, but even if Gunnar were to be to win the starting quarterback job, I think we're going to see Costelli some in different packages just to try to get that different set of skills on the field regardless.
Yeah, you got to. If you're that fast, I mean, you got to get that guy on the field somehow, some way, if he's not there playing quarterback. The other quarterbacks, of course, going to spring, of course, Costelli he came in after the spring. Quade Hawkins, him and Gunnar Watson were in that quarterback battle during the spring. Tucker Kilcrease is there as well. What's the latest on those two quarterbacks and where they stand?
Quade Hawkins had a little bit of an ankle injury that kind of slowed him up, and I think that kind of put him behind in terms of this competition goes. But he's another guy that has a big arm, and he's a little bit more mobile than Gunnar, but that's not really his game. I think he's still obviously competing and still in that discussion. I think Tucker is extremely talented. If you ever watched him in high school, big arm, really talented quarterback. He's a little bit smaller than the other guys, and he's a true freshman coming in, so you're always going to be behind any veteran quarterback that's been in the college game. But he has, during the spring, for example, he came in and was kind of shadowing the quarterbacks during the spring and watching the spring and trying to learn the offense. So I think he has a leg up from some quarterbacks coming in as freshmen.
It helps with who's going to be the quarterback, that they have an established offensive line, and Troy's got that. 4 starters return. You have to replace Dylan Bradshaw there at center, but you got on the left side Austin Stidham and DeAndre Butler coming back. You got Jake Andrews and Grant Betts on the other side. Stidham and Andrews are all Sunbelt performers. What's it looking like, though, with the center position?
Well, that's J.K. He made the transition in spring to really primarily working in that spot. He seems to really taken hold of that and kind of grasped it and sort of embraced it, being that leader of the. And so what that does is end up now you've kind of shored that up, but now you left the hole at right guard, which it's these new faces, like I mentioned, they have a lot of new faces in the offensive line room. A lot of those new guys have stepped into that role, and one of the ones that has gotten a lot of reps with the ones, and he's, to me, so far, and obviously they hadn't even strapped on full pads yet, but to me, the one that's standing out is Tyler Harvey Fellows, who is probably one of the more interesting stories, being he's from the United Kingdom, learned how to play football at the NFL Academy in England, and went the JUCO route, and now he's at his first year in Division I football, and it looks like he's definitely right there competing for that spot. So that's really the one spot you can kind of look out for in terms of the ones, see who's going to take on that role.
Playmakers, you have Tez Johnson there at wide receiver, who is a preseason All Sun Belt selection. You have at running back, Kamani Vidal at running back, who's been a solid running back for them over the years. What are your thoughts, though, on what Troy has and what you've seen and heard coming out of the fall camp so far, and through the spring, too, about the skill position, the playmakers around these quarterbacks?
Very talented running backs, like I mentioned earlier, not just Kamani Vidal, but you got Charles Strong, who's just a massive guy. Jamontez Wood, that's another. I think each one of them kind of brings something different to the table, and it's going to be interesting to see how they spread the ball around and get each one of these guys the ball. I think Charles Strong, you got a guy that you can give the ball to in short yardage and goal line type situations, more of a power back, and then Vidal he can do everything. He's one of the best backs in the Sun Belt. As far as receivers, you mentioned Tez. Jabari Barber has been a guy that's been making some plays really since last year, and he's continued to do that in fall camp. You got Rajay Johnson, who's a transfer from UAB and came in the spring. He's a big receiver. He's 6'3", probably 210, 215. Him and this new South Carolina transfer, Eric Shaw, are kind of continuing this trend that seems like with Coach Summerall is bringing in bigger receivers. They also have another JUCO receiver, about 6'4", Marcus Fales. And then you got Marcus Rogers, who's also about 6. I think you're going to see a lot of the guys that get on the field are going to – Joe Craddock has said flat out, you have to block. If you're going to get on the field, and if you want to get the ball, you're going to have to block. So I think you're going to see that trend of the bigger receivers coming to Troy. But Tez Johnson and Jabari Barber, those guys are probably some of the better deep guys. Got a little wiggle to them. You'll see them get them the ball in space. I think those are kind of the guys to watch out for. Yeah,
Barber's a very familiar name for me, doing that's the Wolves football game. So I just got to throw that out there. What he's doing. Defense. We talked about them a little bit earlier. We alluded to them. Man, Josh, that defense is good. And if you're a quarterback, I'm sorry for you. They are going to get after you. They were 24th nationally last year, total defense. Like I said, they're really good at getting behind the line of scrimmage. 10th in tackle for losses, 12th in sacks per game last year at 3.2. But, for me, and I want to get your thoughts on this team, it all starts with Carlton Martial.
Oh, absolutely. But I got to back up just a minute because I'm going to catch some flack if I don't mention the tight ends. Troy has been notoriously known for not using those tight ends, but those big guys are going to get some plays this year. Michael Vice, John Gray Lewis, big guys. They're going to use two tight formations a lot more this year. But that's one thing. I got to give the tight end some love. But, yeah, go back to the defense. Everything starts with Carlton Martial. He is the heart and soul of that defense. He is probably one of the best linebackers in the entire country. It doesn't matter if you're talking Power 5, you're talking SEC, Sun Belt. It doesn't matter. There is in my opinion, no better linebacker in the country.
Yeah, 127 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 2 sacks last year. And then, okay, you deal with him. If you do figure out a way to get him blocked and scheme around him, you got these 2 edge rushers in Javon Solomon and Richard Chabot who combined for 19 sacks last year.
Yeah, pick your poison, man. Defense. And one of the more interesting things about Gibner and Solomon is they play the same position on the defensive line or outside linebacker, whatever you want to call it, bandit. But one thing that seems that they're really going to try to put much more effort into is making sure they're on the field at the same time more this year. Instead of having to share snaps, they'll be on the field a little bit more. And that's got to be something that's got to be terrifying for offensive lines and opposing offenses, because you got those two, and then also you got Big Will Cholo in the middle. That's a tough ask for any offensive line.
Yeah, because he's the kind of nose tackle that can help limit the running game. You shut that down, and then if Troy's able to put you in passing situations where they know you have to throw the ball, then they can just pin the ears back, come after your quarterback. I mean, they were the best in the Sun Belt at doing that last year, and then one of the best in the country, obviously, with the sacks per game. So, I mean, if they can slow teams down running the ball, look out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Cholo is pretty much what you would consider the prototypical nose. He's going to eat up blocks, and if you do not put two guys on him to stop him, he'll get in the backfield. And he's shown plenty of times he'll get in the backfield. He'll blow up your running game. He'll put pressure on the quarterback. So, yeah, like you said, if you can't run the ball and you have to throw it, more power to you, because, I mean, it's going to be rough.
So, in the secondary, led by T.J. Harris, he's coming back. But where do you see their secondary at?
Again, just a veteran group. Ray Stewart is another guy that's made a lot of plays back there. I think probably TJ is probably one of the best DBs in the Sun Belt. I think there's a couple of new faces back there for some of the Wiregrass folks. Orlando Lacey is a guy that's kind of switched positions throughout his career at Troy, and he looks like he's kind of settled on cornerback. He'll probably get playing time too. So, yeah, it's definitely a veteran group out there, just like the rest of the defense.
So, look at the schedule. And the reason why I wanted to do the defense second, because the schedule kind of leads into that for me. And I talked to Barry McKnight a few weeks ago, and I brought this up to him, and I'm going to bring this up to you too as well. I'm not going to sit here and predict right now that I think Troy will beat Ole Miss. But I will say this. Ole Miss, particularly on offense, has a lot of new parts they're putting in. And as we know in college football, you don't have preseason games like they do in the NFL. This will be their first time playing together. Yes, they'll be at home. But I just think Troy can really give Ole Miss some issues, particularly early on in that game, in the opener, with what they can do defensively getting after the quarterback, because we don't know if Lane Kiffin's going to have picked the quarterback by then. So Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier may have a lot of Troy Trojans in their face in that game, because we know Lane Kiffin, yes, they do run the ball a lot, and they're one of the better running teams in the SEC, but also at the same time, Lane Kiffin wants to throw the ball. So that's interesting to me when it comes to that Ole Miss Troy matchup to open the season.
When Ole Miss scheduled a group of five school for their opener in the 2022 season, I don't think Lane Kiffin anticipated it being a defense like this for sure. And when you have a new quarterback out there starting, I don't think this is the defense you want them starting against for sure. But I've said it on here before. I think Lane Kiffin is a offensive genius in my mind, and it's definitely going to be one of the more interesting. And it's cool that it's the first game of the season, but it's going to be one of the more interesting games to watch come in. I picked earlier in the summer. I picked that to be one of Troy's losses this year, but it's absolutely one of the kind of the up in the air type of games, because, like you said, we really don't know what Ole Miss is going to have offensively, and even if they are able to score, I think Troy's offense, if they can continue to improve and show what they've been showing in fall camp and in the summer, that they could hang with them offensively as well, and if they're able to control the clock with the running game too, that's just going to give Lane Kiffin more fits, and it's also going to play against them.
Yeah, in games like that, too, when the favorite is being tested by a team they probably thought going in they were going to blow out or, win easily, they tense up. They play tight. They play not to lose, not to win. So if that game is close going to the fourth quarter, that's a great opportunity for Troy. Even if they don't come out with a victory, if they keep that game close, that's going to be a huge momentum boost for them going into the Sun Belt schedule.
100%, and they're going in this game motivated. Austin Stidham talked about it at Sunbelt Media Days, that people always talk about games like this where, it's just another game. it's absolutely not just another game for them. They're coming in with absolutely nothing to lose, and they are going to play like that.
And look, Troy has made a living off these kind of games in the past, upsetting teams that most other Group of 5 teams at their level would not beat, but Troy has found a way over the years to do so. So this is kind of like one of them games for them. So we know Troy has his history.
Yeah, well, there's a reason that LSU would never schedule Troy for a homecoming again.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, looking at the rest of the schedule, after that they'll play Alabama A&M. Then the third week they go at Appalachian State, which that'll be a big deal. Other big road games, they have to go to Western Kentucky. Southern Miss and Marshall on the schedule as Sunbelt opponents. That's taking some getting used to looking at the schedule. They will close the year out at the end against Arkansas State. Louisiana, that's another road game. Of course, they got the at South Alabama before that in October. What are reasonable expectations you think when you look at the Troy schedule and record-wise?
Yeah, earlier in the summer, I put out that I kind of had them at 8 and kind of an 8-win season. I honestly believe 8, 9, 10 wins are very attainable. I know when you look at the last couple of years, it's kind of like, I don't know about that, but absolutely it's attainable for this team. And the games that you mentioned, App State, Western Kentucky, Army, Louisiana are kind of those really, and Ole Miss, like you mentioned, those are really those big games. And if they can, especially some of those conference games, can sneak in some wins against a team like App State or even, Louisiana, would be huge and would really go towards them having a big year this year.
And looking at the Sun Belt as a whole, over on the East with the preseason coaches poll I'm looking at right now, they predict Appalachian State to win that side with Coastal Carolina. And just looking at it, I'm just going to say it looks like the East, that's more of the top-heavy side of the two divisions. The West, Louisiana's the favorite, and I've seen a lot, even in some of the preseason magazines. I've got South Alabama predicted over Troy. Just so, what's your overall thoughts on the Sun Belt?
I think the way they've handled this conference expansion, which we have not seen the last of it, obviously, for sure, it's been solid. Southern Miss, Old Dominion, Marshall, James Madison, those are all solid teams with solid histories. With great fan bases. They're going to add some really good competition for this team. Troy and Southern Miss have history together. So I personally think that the Sun Belt really looks solid from the top to the bottom for the most part. South Alabama is going to be improved again this year. App State and Louisiana, like you mentioned, are always great. I think Georgia Southern got a new coaching staff, new offense. I think it'll be interesting to watch them too. So there's going to be a lot of kind of fun storylines to follow the Sun Belt this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like I said, Southern Miss, Marshall, James Madison, Old Dominion, new teams coming in. And I feel like it's obvious. Two of those teams were in Conference USA. They're now jumping into the Sun Belt. And to me, the Sun Belt's jumped over that. The Sun Belt has got to be in conversation about being the second best Group of 5 conference behind the American Athletic Conference.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I think, to me, there's no question about it. And they obviously, the best teams in the Sun Belt can absolutely compete with the best teams in the AAC. So we're definitely seeing those two conferences kind of separate themselves from the rest of the Group of 5.
Who would you put at 3?
Oh gosh. I don't.
I would probably put the Mountain West.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's another one that's kind of top heavy, but yeah.
Because Boise's still good, Fresno's still good. They got a few of them teams in there. So I guess for me, it would be Mountain West for me. But it's the Sun Belt definitely has really jumped up. It's always been good at the top, anyways, because we've seen these Sun Belt teams knock off SEC teams over the years, not just recently. Over the last 10, 15 years. But it's just getting better and better and more competitive. There's a good amount of teams. Coastal Carolina coming on the scene. The consistency with Louisiana. We'll see what happens with Billy Napier being gone. Appalachian State, it doesn't matter who their coach is. They're good regardless. And if Troy gets back to what they're doing, this conference is, the Group of 5 at the top and even in the middle is really, really solid.
Yeah, and that really is the big thing when you have the Sun Belt is kind of always looked at it being top heavy with a couple of 4 or 5 teams that can compete with everyone else, and getting those 4 really solid teams to expand it, and then also other teams like South Alabama and Georgia Southern, everyone improving, that kind of raises you up to being on the AAC level and kind of surpassing the MAC and the Mountain West, everyone else.
Oh, just look at that too, and I'm going to jump in and get your thoughts on the state of college football right now. But when it comes to covering Troy, one of these stadiums, maybe you've been to, maybe you haven't, but obviously outside of Troy when they're at home, what's one of these Sunbelt stadiums you look forward to going to if you had a chance?
App State's. That I haven't been to it yet, but that's definitely one I would like to. I haven't been to South's new stadium, but that People's is always a fun one. But App State's kind of on my bucket list. Also, Georgia State, I really like their the old Brave Stadium, turning it into a football field. I like that.
Yeah, the only thing about that one, which you're not coming from a broadcaster standpoint, if you see the broadcasters have to get, is not the traditional look. I know I've seen Barry McKnight retweet that photo a few times. And I'm like, man, that's not a good spot for a play-by-play guy.
Yeah. If you ever been to the Hoover Met in Hoover, that's kind of what it reminds me of.
So, real quickly, obviously college football is in discussion year-round now, and it felt like most of the offseason we were still talking about transfer portal and NIL, and then the Big Ten decided to add USC and UCLA. Where are you at on this? Because I'm mixed on it, Josh, because I see where it's going, and it could make the sport bigger. We could get better games on Saturday. But at the same time, I look at the tradition of college football, and I think we're throwing that out to a degree, especially when you got 2 Pac-12 teams not going to be in the Big Ten. Certain rivalries are going away. And then I also worry, we're sitting here talking about Troy and the Sun Belt. I worry about the smaller conferences and the smaller programs like Troy, the smaller schools, not programs, smaller schools like Troy. So where are you at on everything going on in college football?
I'm absolutely right there with you. I see the good and I see the bad. The expansions, like you said, we're going to get to a point where an Alabama and Auburn, their schedules are going to be 12 Power 5 opponents over big, huge games. But like you mentioned, where does that leave Troy? Where does that leave Louisiana? Where does that leave App State? Not being able to get those bigger games against a Power 5 school, which in some schools' case is a big benefit in terms of financially being able to get those games, and especially for FCS, that's really going to hurt FCS schools for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I don't think we've kind of surpassed that point where there's any going back. The conference expansions are going to continue. It almost feels like maybe we're even leaning towards getting to a point where the Power Fives kind of break off into their own division. It's what it feels like. You're definitely going to get the playoffs expanded and more teams in the playoffs. You kind of think, well, that means another group of 5 team can sneak in, but it's more likely no. It's just going to be more Power 5 schools. So, like you said, I do see the benefit. I also see definitely the bad things coming from it. Also, when you look around college football, the NIL stuff, the transfer portal, and now there's talk of the transfer portal being where you don't have any limits on how many times you can transfer without sitting out. And so college football is absolutely changing, whether it's for the better or for the worse or neutral, whatever. It's kind of up to the individual person, I guess. I see the good in everything, but I'll see the setbacks and all of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's no chance of going backwards. We're going forward. It's just going to be interesting to see how this thing looks in the next 5 to 10 years and on what direction it goes in. And, Josh, we're about to hit the 30-minute mark. It's been a great conversation having you on talking about Troy and the Sun Belt and all things college football, really. It's a sport that we can talk about year-round. It used to not be that way. It's in the news year-round now. But if listeners out there and people watching on YouTube as well want to check you out, where can they find you online and check out all the work you're doing?
You can find me at TroyMessenger.com. Follow us at Troy Messenger on Twitter, the Troy Messenger at Facebook. We're posting all the time. We're all the Troy stuff, trying to cover as much as we possibly can about Troy University athletics. It's kind of something that maybe has slipped a little bit in the past, that the Messenger wasn't your place for Troy Athletics, and we're trying to bring that back for sure. You can also follow me personally on Twitter, Messenger, JB Messenger.
All right, Josh, sounds good. Appreciate the time. I'm sure I'll be hitting you up throughout the season, talk more about Troy and Sunbelt, stuff like that. But I appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
And my pleasure, man.
Everybody, thanks to Josh Boutwell for coming on this morning's podcast. We pre-recorded that on Sunday, just let you guys know. That interview part was not live, which will be the case here on these morning podcasts that I'm going to be doing. You won't be seeing the guests will be live. I'm not going to ask these guests to get up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, come on the show. So we'll pre-record that stuff. But everything else is live in here. And if you are watching live right now, or even if you're watching on replay, leave a comment. Just let me know you're here. Just let me know you checked out the show, what you think, what I need to do better, what is well or what is good with the show. Tell me. I really appreciate it. And if you have a college football or any kind of sports question, you can do so as well. Of course, on the YouTube channel, we do all kinds of different things. But anyways, so a couple things before we get out of here. Just a few little news items. The coaches poll came out on Monday. The first coaches poll, which look, let's be honest here. The coaches poll and AP poll really doesn't matter. But it's something for us to talk about in the preseason, kind of get a gauge, and especially the coaches poll. Look, we know these coaches aren't really watching all these games, but the preseason coaches poll is kind of interesting where at least we can get an idea where some of the coaches' minds are at on who they think are the best teams. So let's look at the coaches poll. If you're watching on YouTube, I have the coaches poll now up on the screen. If not, you're just listening, just bear with me here as I go to the list. So your top 5 teams, you got Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. Actually, let's just start with the top 3. That's fine. Now, if I was doing this, if I was putting out my own top 25, and actually I'm thinking about doing that for a show later on in the week, I would go Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Because I think a lot of people are just thinking Georgia lost so many people. Georgia got plenty of talent. We talked about that with Troy Sadowski here last week on the pod. I've been talking about that on the podcast several weeks now. Georgia's got plenty of talent coming back. Georgia's going to be one of the top teams in college football, and I would not be shocked if them and Alabama play twice this season. But those are the best 3, regardless. And number 4, and this is one thing I have struggled with here in the offseason, especially as I've been researching and prepping for the season and kind of looking at all these different teams, and that is who is the 4th best team in college football. Now, the coaches poll has Clemson at number 4. I can see that. But at the same time, I don't see Clemson as a contender yet. I still have questions about their offensive line. Quarterback, obviously. DJ struggled last year. Will Shipley at running back is really good. I'm not sure they're wide receiver. Now, defensively, they're going to be really, really good. And it's justified for them being the favorite in the ACC. But I don't think they're at the same level right now. Could be wrong. We could get in the season. They could be awesome. They could be the Clemson they were under Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, especially if DJ can actually play up to the level that we expected him to be. But then number 5, you got Notre Dame. That's a little high for Notre Dame, in my opinion. Replace quarterback, replacing a lot of other parts on that team. I think they're going to be a solid team. I think, and we're going to get into this in a second too, they do play Ohio State first, which I don't think that's going to work out well for them. I just don't see them. When I look at the teams in college football, I just don't see them as the 5th best team. I just don't. Michigan at 6, I get it. They're coming off the big year with Harbaugh. Obviously, we know who they're losing on defense. 2 great pass rushers, including Aiden Hutchinson. And then they do bring a lot of their players back on offense last year. I think Michigan takes a step back. I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I think they're a 9-3, a 10-2 team this year. I think they're going to lose some games. I don't think defensively they're going to be as dominant. I think they'll be good, but they're not going to be as dominant as they were last year. Texas A&M at number 7. Obviously, a lot of people are on the hype train for A&M. They're bringing in number 1 recruiting class. They have a really talented roster. I feel like A&M is a year away. I do not think 2022 is going to be their year. I can see this team once again get 2 or 3 losses, and you heard my thoughts on Jimbo Fisher. Outside of Jameis Winston, he's been an 8-4, 9-3 coach anyways. But next season, I think, is when more of that talent, that young talent they got coming in, is experience, bring in another recruiting class. I think 2023 will be A&M's year. I don't see them maybe as the 7th best team in the country, and I don't think that's where they're going to land at the end of the year. And of course, you look at, and I do think they're the 3rd best team in the conference, though. I will say that. Utah at number 8. I would put Utah higher if I was doing a top 25. Utah is going to be really good. To me, they should be and are the favorite to win the Pac-12. They're physical. You got quarterback Cam Rising coming back. I really want to see where his development goes. Like, what can he be at the next level? What kind of quarterback prospect is he? Interesting. Then you got 3 Big 12 teams coming at 9, 10, and 11. Oklahoma, Baylor, Oklahoma State. Those 3, it's like ask anybody, you may get a different answer. Ask 3 people, you may get a different response who they think is going to win the Big 12. Could be any of those 3 teams. 12, you got Oregon, who I do believe is the second best team. Bo Nix is the wild card with them, and new head coach Dan Lanning. They're going to be physical just like Utah. That's why I've got those 2 teams. That's the best 2 teams in the Pac-12. Number 13 was NC State. They are the biggest threat to Clemson. They beat Clemson last year. They have a lot of guys coming back. Devin Leary, the quarterback, is a really good quarterback. Threw more touchdown passes in a season than Phillip Rivers did. I don't think that gets talked about enough. Michigan State, we'll see. They had a big year last year. They could not stop the pass to save their lives last year. And with Kenneth Walker, the running back, gone, we'll see. We'll see. He was a big part of their offense. I'm not sure Peyton Thorne's the kind of quarterback that can carry you. He's a good, solid college football quarterback. But we'll see. We'll see if he takes that growth and see if they can find a running game. USC at 15, Colin Cowherd probably having a fit that are not a top 5, top 4 team. But they're not. I have questions, not the quarterback, not skill position players with USC. And I think USC is going to be really good. They'll probably win close to 9 or 10 games. I would not be shocked with Lincoln Riley there. But at the same time, I look at them, and I don't think they're going to be physical up front on offensive line. And I know Lincoln Riley's coming up and said, this is a lot better here than I thought it'd be. We'll see. Pitt at 16, defending ACC champions. Derek Keaton Slow was coming in from USC quarterback, but they're lost a receiver, so we'll see. Miami at 17. 18, Texas. Texas actually got a vote for a number 1 vote. Somebody voted for one. Wake Forest 19. I think at any year Wake Forest will be higher. That's with Sam Hartman coming back. That team's going to be good on offense. Number 20, Wisconsin. Talked with Jay about them last week. All hinges on Graham Mertz. We know they're going to run the ball. We know they're going to play good defense. Bobby Ingram, new offensive coordinator, come in from the NFL, former NFL wide receiver. I'll be interested to see what he does with receivers, see if they do more than the typical kind of boring Wisconsin way of offense. 21, Kentucky. Will Levis. A lot of eyeballs going to be on them. Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati won't stay in any top 25 long. They'll be in there just from respect what they did last season, but I don't see them being there long. They are not the best group of 5 team out there by any stretch of imagination. I think they'll still be a good, solid team, but they're going to take a step back. Arkansas at 23. Ole Miss comes at 24. Ole Miss could rise or fall. It's just how does the new parts mesh together, and who's going to be the quarterback? Will it be Jackson Dart or will it be Luke Altmaier to be big? And number 25, Houston, who I do believe is the best group of 5 team this upcoming year. I believe they could honestly, I looked at their schedule. They have potentials where they could go undefeated. And I don't know if they play a schedule that would lead to them getting to the college football playoff. And a lot of stuff's got to work for you to do that. That's why Cincinnati got in there too. A lot of stuff in front of you's got to happen. But I do believe they are the best group of 5 team out there. So that's the USA Today coaches poll that came out on Monday. I'm sure at some point we'll get the AP poll be coming out as well. So it's very interesting where that will lead to. Like I said, these rankings don't really mean much as they did because what we pay attention to is the college football playoff rankings. But it is fun to look at these things, see where coaches, see where the media members are leaning in these polls, especially in the preseason. During the season, I'm not going to talk much. I ain't going to talk much about rankings like those unless it's the college football playoff rankings. But here during the still we're getting into the season. We'll talk about them. Real quick, some other stuff. 24/7 Sports, Brad Crawford put out most anticipated games of the 2022 season. And number 1, he had Michigan, Ohio State. And I see that. That's going to be big when they play, especially if Michigan is good. If Michigan can stay to the level they were last year, and if that's another big game, determines who goes to the Big Ten championship. And there's going to be there's some Jim Harbaugh has said some comments toward Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. That's going to be a highly heated game. Ohio State losing to Michigan for the first time in a while. That'd be a fun matchup. Alabama and Texas A&M, obviously, I wouldn't have been shocked if someone ranked that number 1. Just the Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban deal. I know they were playing nice at SEC Media Days, saying the beef is done, all that stuff. But we'll see. We'll see how the players feel about that when we get to that game on October 8th. Notre Dame, Ohio State. I don't think that's going to be much of a game. I think Ohio State's going to run them. I just don't. Notre Dame has athletes to stay with them. Alabama, Texas, Saban versus Sark. That'd be a fun big noon kickoff, which I know a lot of Alabama fans are upset. USC, Utah on October 15th. He had that at his 5th. I like this matchup. This is going to be the media darlings in USC, and I think a team that's probably going to get disrespected a lot by some people in the media. Colin Cowherd. But I think Utah's the best. Like I said just a minute ago, I think Utah's the best team in Pac-12 going in. OU, Texas, always. You always look forward to that. Last 2 years, Texas has blown some big leads against Oklahoma. In 2020, Spencer Rattler would have come back, and Caleb Williams last year with Oklahoma. So we'll see. Can Texas get a lead in this thing and hold it? We'll see. North Carolina State and Clemson is the 7th. They play on October 1st. That's going to be big. Like I said, NC State beat them last year. And they're going to come in that game. It's going to be in Clemson, but they're going to come in that game with a lot of confidence. That's going to be an intriguing matchup. Number 8 had Oklahoma State, OU. Perhaps the last time these two programs play each other for a while. With Oklahoma, who knows when Oklahoma's going to leave the Big 12 officially, and when they do come into the SEC. So every time we see this matchup, let's enjoy it, because we may not see it when they become a member of the SEC. Tennessee, Georgia. Tennessee put up some yards and a little bit more points than Georgia was used to during the regular season. Hendon Hooker coming back. Tennessee's going to have a lot of momentum coming into the year. We'll see. I have my doubts. I don't think Tennessee's quite at that level yet to give Georgia a game. And then Ohio State, Penn State, that's always a big game on 29th. So what's your most anticipated game of the season? I would say Alabama, Texas A&M for me, but y'all know I'm kind of centered in the SEC. But it's going to be fun. We got some good games coming here, and there's plenty more. There's plenty more great contests coming up this year. And then finally, we're going to jump into some Big Ten conversation here. Big Ten could be going to NBC and CBS, which, of course, CBS is losing the SEC to ESPN and ABC here in the coming years. John Ourand from the Sports Business Journal, Big Ten is working toward an agreement on a media rights deal with Fox, CBS, and NBC, would end a 40-year partnership with ESPN. So you would have the SEC, ACC, the big dog. That's the for over at ESPN, and then you could have all the Big Ten over there, which would be big if you're on 3 of the 4 major networks like that. That's a huge contract, and it would be worth a lot of money as well. It says if ESPN loses the Big Ten, look for them to be aggressive to secure the Big 12 and Pac-12 or merger or two, plus more NCAA championships and the college football playoff. So that'll be the thing. It's okay, you go over there, we'll take the playoff. Big Ten would earn $1 billion annually. That would be a big one. Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, CBS to shell out $350 million because they're going to want college football when they lose the SEC. And if you can't have the SEC, why don't you jump on there and get the Big Ten? And $350 million would be big. So would Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson do Big Ten games? Gary Danielson will be back at home there because obviously he played at Purdue. He's from that area. NBC Big Ten in prime time. In one of the stories about this, they said how NBC would want to turn college football to the NFL style with prime time, kind of give it the same treatment to give Sunday Night Football, which is always a big deal. Sunday Night Football always feels like a big deal when it happens. The Athletics, Nicole Auerbach, said conference wants to have consistent slate of national broadcasts every week, and her colleague over at The Athletic, Stuart Mandel, put this out. Now, this is not a report. This is just something that you could see. At 2023 at noon, Big Ten on Fox. At 3:30, Big Ten on CBS. 7:30, Big Ten on NBC. That's a good lineup for your Big Ten. You're on three of the major networks. Then, of course, you would have over on ESPN, ABC, SEC at noon, SEC at 3:30, and then either the SEC or ACC at 9. We'll see what happens with the Big 12, Pac-12 deal. Football-wise, I think it works. That would be big for everybody. Basketball-wise, because a lot of people, I think, do go to ESPN for college basketball until the tournament. Then we switch over to CBS. So that's kind of how that would get treated would be quite interesting. And they do put a lot of stuff on Fox Sports 1, obviously. Does that fall to the wayside? Then you're going to look at, I think football fans will go to the streaming services like Peacock for their content there. But will they do it for basketball? I think college basketball might get hurt by this, but football-wise, it's going to make a lot of money. So, and people will go to games. It don't matter who televises these games. People will go to it where the football's at. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking College Football. Now, I'm going to let you guys know something behind the scenes that's going on right now. I am bringing back the Phillip Jordan podcast. I will still be putting college football content here, so don't worry. Any college football conversation I have here, but the more focused show will probably be the Phillip Jordan podcast, which is a college football, college basketball prominent show. We're just kind of putting my name back on stuff with the brand, but I will still the feed. This podcast feed is not going anywhere. So anytime I talk to somebody about college football, I will put it on here. But just letting you guys know what's going on moving forward. Anyways, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is still available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Check it out on YouTube. Had a few viewers in there. Did not get any comments yet. We're still. I know you guys are watching out there. Put a comment down there. It's all right. It's all right. Nobody's gonna bite you. But anyways, that's gonna do it for the show today. But check out the Phillip Jordan podcast coming later this week. I'm going to have a podcast on Friday morning for that. So the morning deal is going to be a regular thing. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Got to go do the day job. Got to get up. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Whenever I talk to you, remember, let kindness be your compass. And until next time, bye-bye.